Now let's talk about the right shares. So first of all, the right shares are given to existing shareholders, and as per the agreed ratio, which might be given as most likely 1 for every 2, 1 for every 4, and anything like that. And there will be a right issue price given at which the shares will be offered to the existing shareholder. Now, why right shares? Why shares is offered to existing shareholders? First, just in order to protect them to avoid dilution of control. So that's the reason why when a company tries to issue new shares, the company has to offer the right to the existing shareholders. And what existing shareholders can do about these right shares? So the options available for them, one of the option is to exercise the shares, to take up the right at a price given. Second option is they can sell the right to the other shareholders, means they are not interested in buying those shares, rather they can sell them at a price, or they can partly take up and partly sold. This option is also available. And fourth one is do nothing. They are neither interested in exercising nor selling the right. So we have to evaluate that in each case, what would be the impact on the wealth of shareholders. Wealth of shareholders. But first of all, whenever a right has been given, then we need to identify what would be the impact on the share price immediately after the right issue. So first of all, let's discuss few terminology. One is come right price. Come right price is share price immediately before right issue. The price given before right issue is called come right price. And then we have a term called X right price, or sometimes called theoretical X right price, which is TERP. This is share price after right issue. Immediately after right issue, the price would be called the X right price. And then theoretically, the X right price always falls, theoretically. And then we have right issue price. This is the price at which shares will be offered to existing shareholders. And normally this is discount to current market price, which is the come right price. Now we need to evaluate that what would be the effect on the share price after the right. A formula will be provided that will calculate the right issue price. So first we will calculate, then I'll assign a formula as well. Suppose, for example, the current share price before right is $4 per share. A right is announced on the basis of 1 for every 4 shares. That means the existing shareholders, those have 4 existing shares, they will get 1 right. And the price set for that is 20% discount to current market price. Now, what would be the impact on the share price, assuming the right will be exercised? So first of all, this is the term 1 for every 4 shares. So existing shareholder, they have 4 shares, and the current price before right is 4. That means the total value is 16. Now, 1 right will be offered at a price of 20% discount. So that means after discount, the price would be 3.2. This is the right issue price. This is right issue price. So right issue price is 3.20. So Investor now after right have 5 ordinary shares, and that would worth theoretically 19.20. So that means the X right price or the theoretical X right price is 19.2 by 5. So now theoretically the per share price would be 19.2 by 5, and that is 3.84. Now see, this is in between the come right price, which is 4, and the right issue price, which is 3.2. So in between these two, we have the X right price 3.84. And theoretically, it always fall. And the reason is there are two specific reasons for that. One is the element of discount. Remember that the discount is usually offered in order to make it attractive so that existing shareholders either subscribe this offer or sell these rights. So higher the discount, the more will be dilution in the share price. But if the discount is low, then there are chances of under subscription. And the second element that create a problem for the fall in price is the uncertainty surrounding the funds, that why the company is raising this fund, what would be the consequences of investment of those funds, or what would the purpose of raising this money. So that's make it right issue price always fall as compared to the existing price or come right price. Now, we can also use a formula in terms of total, that TERP is value of shares pre-right, before right, what would be the value of shares, plus right issue proceed, amount raised from right issue, by number of shares after right. That is number of shares before right and right issue, right shares. This is number of shares after right. In this formula, we can also add the issue cost of right shares as well as the net present value generated from the proceed of the right shares. So let's apply this formula. Suppose we have 100,000 ordinary shares in issue right now. These are the existing shares, and current share price is $3 per share. Now, a right was offered to existing shareholder, and the term of right was 1 for every 5 held. And the price offered was 2.80 per share. This is the right issue price. Now let's calculate first the number of right shares. So we have existing shares 100,000. For every 5 shares, 1 new share will be given. That means 20,000 shares are offered to existing shareholders. And as a result, the proceed of those 20,000 shares we need to calculate is at a price of 2.80. So proceed is 20,000 into 2.8, that is 56,000. This is the proceed. So in the formula, we have value of shares pre-right, right issue proceed, and total number of shares. Now after right, total shares are pre-right, we have 100,000, and new shares 20,000. So a total of 1,20,000 shares is there. Now let's apply the formula. Value of shares before right, we have 100,000 shares, and which is worth 3 each. So this is the current value. Proceed of right, 56,000. and the whole divided by 1,20,000. This is the number of shares. So this is the X right price. And if we can calculate the X right price, it's 3,56,000 by 1,20,000. It's 2.9667 or 2.967. This is the price. So the come right price was 3 and the after right issue price falls, and that is 2.9667. Now, in order to find out the price at which right can be sold, we have to calculate value of right. And the formula for value of right is TERP or X right price minus the right issue price. So in the above example, the TERP is 2.97, let's assume, and the right issue price was 2.8. So we have 0.17. This is the value of right. And that right has been given against 5 shares. So value of right per existing share, if we need to find out. So the term is 1:5, 5 for 1. So we'll divide this by 5, and this will give us a figure of value of right per existing share, 0.034. So we have an example here. Babelco, which has an issued capital of 2 million shares, having a current market value of 2.70 each, which is the come right price, make a right issue of 1 new share for every 2 existing shares at a price of 2.10. So this is the right issue price. The term is 1 for every 2. The come right price is given 2.70. Calculate the TERP. So 1 for every 2 means 2 shares, current price is 2.70, a total is 5.40, 1 right at a price of 2.10. As a result, after right 3 shares, and the value of those shares is 7.50. So that means the X right price is 7.50 by 3. So as a result, the X right price is 2.5 per share. Now we have to investigate that after right, what would be the impact on the wealth of the shareholder. Now let's assume that we have a shareholder having 1,000 ordinary shares. And first option is to exercise the right. If that person, that shareholder exercise the right, what would be the impact on the wealth of shareholder? So first of all, let's calculate wealth before right. So 1,000 shares, and the current market value of the share given in the example is 2.70. So that means the current worth is 2,700. Now, wealth after taking up the right. So the person has 1,000 shares, and the term of right is for every 2, 1 right will be offered. So 500 new shares will be offered. So 500 new shares will be offered to that shareholder, and the total number of share is now 1,500, but the current market worth is now 2.50. So number of shares is increased, but the market price has decreased. So as a result, the value is 3,750. This is the current worth, but we have to deduct the price of right shares. That right shares were offered 500 at a cost of 2.10. So 500 shares at a cost of 2.10. This is the outflow. So we have to deduct this outflow. And we have 500 into 2.1, that is 1050. As a result, we have 2700 wealth after right. So technically or theoretically, there is no difference, there is no impact on wealth of shareholders. Wealth of shareholders, theoretically, there is no change. Now, second option, to sell the right. Now, let's assume that the investor is not interested in taking up the right, rather you want to sell the right. So we have value of right. We have to calculate value of right, and value of right is TERP, which is 2.50, minus right issue price, which is 2.10, and we have 0.40. This is value of right, 0.40. Now, wealth before right, that would be same from the above working. Wealth before right, 2,700. And we have wealth after right. So if it's not interested in taking up the right, so the number of shares are 1,000, and the current price is now dropped to 2.5. So as a result, the value is 2,500, and we need to add sale proceed of right. And we have right 500, and the value of right is 0.4. So that means the proceed received is 200, and the value is 2,700 after right. So in this, the wealth is again the same, so no impact on wealth. So theoretically, the investor is indifferent between the exercise option and the sell option, because theoretically there is no difference between the wealth. The third option is do nothing. And in do nothing option, wealth before right, we have 2,700, and wealth after right. So in this example, 1,000, and the market price falls to 2.5, 2,500. So technically, there is a fall in the wealth by 200. So that means whenever a company announces right issue, theoretically, the investor has to either take up the right or sell the right. And theoretically, an investor is indifferent between these two options. Now let's try one more example. AlphaCo has issued share capital of 100 million shares with a current market value of 0.85. It announces a 1-for-2 right issue at a price of 40C per share. It therefore plans to raise 20 million in new funds by issuing 50 million new shares. So right issue, the number of right shares given, the amount of proceed given here. Calculate the X right price per share, and for a shareholder B holding 1,000 shares, consider his or her wealth if they take up the right first option, sell their right, partly buy 200 shares and partly sell 300 shares, and takes no action, that is do nothing option. But first of all, we have to calculate the X right price, and we have to calculate value of right first. So let's calculate X right price. 1-for-2 means 2 shares, and the existing value is 0.85, and 1 new offered at a price of 0.40. So that means we have 2 into 0.85, that is 1.7, 0.4, And now after right 3 shares and the value of is 2.1. So X right price is 2.1 by 3, that is 0.70. This is the X right price. So value of right is the difference between X right price, which is 0.70, and the right issue price, which is 0.4. So value of right is 0.30. Now, first option to take up the right. So wealth before right, investor is having 1,000 ordinary shares and the come right price is 0.85. That means the wealth is 850. Now wealth after right, and we have now 1:2 means the number of shares. Let me convert. For every 2, 1 new shares will be issued. So 500 shares will be received. So as a result, now the investor is having 1,500 shares, but the current price is now 0.7. So we have 1,500 into 0.7, that is 1050. And the cost of right shares is 500 shares. Right issue price is 0.40. So that means we have to deduct 200, and the value is after right wealth is 850, which is the same as the wealth before right. Second option to sell the right. Here we have the same scenario, wealth before right, which is 850, and wealth after. Now no change in shares. Shares will remain the same, and the value is dropped now to 0.7. So that means the value is 700. Add proceed of rights sold, and that has been sold at a price of 0.3. So 500 into 0.3, that is 150, and the value is same as wealth before right. Third option is 200 shares as a result of exercise and 300 sold. So this is the option. So again, wealth after we need to calculate. So 1,000 shares we have, and exercise 200 more shares. Now 1,200 shares, and the value of 1,200 shares is 0.7. 200 new shares is exercise. So the value is 840. And the cost of these 200 shares is 0.4 each. So that means 80 is the cost, and proceed is 300 shares at a price of 3. That means 90. So it's combination of both exercising the right and selling the right. So it's 850, and this is wealth after right 850, and before right is also the same. So the last one, do nothing, and we have a loss. Wealth before, that is 850, and now wealth after 1,000 shares, price is dropped to 0.7, 700. So there is a fall of 150 in the wealth of shareholders. Now let's discuss the advantages and disadvantages of right issue for the company. So first of all, advantages. First advantage is it is a fast source of raising funds. Issuing right is the fastest method and the cheapest source of raising capital for a firm. Existing shareholders can buy new shares at a discounted price during the right issue period. The right issue process involves less rigorous rules and regulations compared to other methods like IPO. So this is very handy, this is very easy and cheaper source of finance as well. Why it is a cheaper source of finance? It is having a low cost. Company can initiate a right issue to existing shareholders without incurring underwriting fee if that is not underwritten. So it save money spent on advertisement and other expenses regarding the raising of funds. Third one is maintaining ownership percentages. Shareholders have the option to maintain their existing proportion of share ownership. This will going to help them in order to avoid dilution of control. So existing shareholders are more certain of getting shares compared to a general public issue. Another benefit is raise funds without raising debt finance. So as a result, there will be a positive effect on the gearing ratio as well. And it is a form of equity, so it will reduce the gearing ratio as well. And then control over shares issuance. The board of directors cannot misuse the opportunity to issue new shares at a lower price. Right shares are always offered to existing shareholders based on their current holding. Now, disadvantages. One of the disadvantage is dilution of existing shareholding. Existing shareholders who chooses to ignore the right issue may experience dilution. If shareholders ignore the right issue, their shareholding percentage decreases due to additional shares issued. Next problem is selling pressure. The influx of new shares during a right issue can create selling pressure in the market. Shareholders who do not participate may sell their right or existing shares. Similarly, changes in share value. The share price during the right issue is typically lower than the current market price. This can lead to fluctuation in shares value and impacting the existing shareholders. The company's EPS might decrease due to shares dilution.